It's the Dana Cortez Show with me, Dana Cortez, DJ Automatic, and Anthony A. And today we have two very important guests. Julie Rodriguez, who's a senior advisor for Vice President Joe Biden's presidential campaign. She also happens to be Cesar Chavez's granddaughter. And we also have Miss Teresa Romero, who is the president of the UFW, the United Farm Workers of America. And the UFW has just made the announcement that they are endorsing Joe Biden for the presidency. So why Vice President Joe Biden for president?
Yes, today we're announcing that the UFW is endorsing Joe Biden for president. We believe that it is time for us to have somebody in the White House who's going to represent we the people, who's going to be there for us. Many of us are angry at how African Americans are being treated and killed by police, how immigrants are being demonized by this administration and treated poorly. Black lives matter, and we need to recognize that. We need to recognize that as immigrants, as farm workers, like you just say, Dana, we feed the country. And
right.
We know that we want to endorse Joe Biden for president because, as we have learned, elections matter.
They do. Off camera, we talked a little bit about really encouraging Hispanics, Latinos, however you want to identify yourself, Latinx, encouraging them to not only register and research your candidate, ensuring that their policies help our communities, but showing up to the polls. What can we do to help them do more? Because there's a lot of us, yet we don't vote in great numbers, and there's power in numbers. So what do you think is the disconnect there? Whoever wants to answer that question.
Yeah, well, maybe I'll start. I think today is a very significant and important day. And thank you so much, Teresa and the United Farm Workers, for jumping in and really joining Joe Biden in this fight. The endorsement of the United Farm Workers is so significant for our community because it is, when people see the Black Eagle, the Águila that represents the UFW, for them, it's something that's trusted. It's something that's known. They know what it represents, and that it represents not just the farm workers, but it represents improvement for our communities. And so to have this endorsement is so significant, an important step forward to engaging our Latino community and to engaging the Latino vote. In addition to that, Joe Biden is committed to really, earning every single vote out there. And he knows that our pathway to victory is through the Latino community and through Latino voters in all of our key states, whether we're talking about Arizona, which is a really important battleground state this presidential election. We believe that we can win Arizona. We believe that we can win it for Joe Biden, but we could also win an important Senate seat there with Mark Kelly and others that are running. But we know too, in places like Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and Michigan, there's a growing Latino community in those areas. And we need to make sure that we're speaking to them, that we're engaging them, that we're really connecting them to the issues that matter most. And what we hear from Latino voters, or what matters most, is they want to know that they're going to have, the ability to be able to work hard and to be able to have one job to make a living and to put food on their table. That they're not going to have to, work tirelessly and have to sacrifice so much in terms of time with their children, in terms of, ability to really engage in other ways. They want to be able to, live life and to be able to have the same opportunities as anyone. They want quality, affordable health care. They want, like you said earlier, the ability to be paid overtime if they're working overtime. The ability to, have sick pay if, heaven forbid they get sick. And we know we're dealing with this pandemic that has ravaged the Latino community when you look at the numbers of people that have contracted the virus and died from the virus. So these are all very important points, and we need to make sure we're really sharing, what Joe Biden's plan is, that he has a solution for these issues, and that he, wants to engage all of our voters and ensure that our workers are treated with dignity and respect.
No, I just wanted to give you some contrast on what we're going through right now and the difference with a Biden presidency. You know, just last week, the Supreme Court temporarily blocked Trump's elimination of DACA. We know that the Obama-Biden administration created DACA that benefited about 600,000 young men and women who came to this country as children. The Obama-Biden administration created DAPA, but unfortunately, the Republican-appointed judges blocked DAPA. It would have protected about 4 million parents who are here in this country. So it is about, like I said earlier, like I Julie say, it's about protecting the people who come here and work. Trump has labeled us immigrants as criminals, drug dealers, rapists. He did it yesterday in Arizona. And you guys know, you were there. Thank you very much to Radio Campesina for covering this. And it was very good to hear and see people that are telling him to go home. We don't want them here. We don't want somebody who's going to continue dividing all of us, not just our community, but all of us. We need to be have somebody who's going to unite us and who's going to work for us.
Well, you know, one of the things that you said, when he makes these statements, when Trump makes these statements, he doesn't necessarily say immigrants, or he just kind of lumps everybody into these words, which in turn emboldens, I believe, the racism that we're seeing. So it is just so out there on social media, in person, we see videos. And for anybody, just to let you know, these videos aren't new. We just have cell phones now. But I feel like it has increased. People say things that normally they used to hide behind closed doors. Now they feel very comfortable speaking those things because the president of the United States is talking like that, which gives permission to that type of behavior and that type of language, which is unacceptable. And that kind of leads me to my next question. You know, in 2017, the Trump administration halted the Obama equal pay rule. So I remember reading about that. That required large companies to report how much pay workers receive by race and gender. So, you know, if you're Latino, if you're African American, Asian, man, woman. So they rolled that back. Now, this really specifically affects women of color. And I was shocked to see that Latinas, Hispanic women, have the largest wage gap of anybody in the country. Would a Biden administration mean bringing the equal pay rule back, or something like it at least?
Yes, definitely. I mean, it's so important, you know, not just for the individuals that we believe should be paid, you know, the same for equal work. It's, you know, we're in 2020 now. We have very viable women candidates running for president. We should make sure that we are paying women the same for the same kind of work. So it's important for the individuals, but it's also important for our economy. When you look at the impact that that kind of investment has in a household, especially for women who oftentimes take on different roles within the household, the magnifying, you know, impact of that for our economy is huge. And so those are the things that we really need to make sure we're, you know, making the case for and underscoring, especially when we're talking about our economic recovery after COVID. We have to build back better than what we had before. And we have to ensure that we have someone like Joe Biden in the White House who is building the administration that with the kinds of, you know, policies that are really going to impact our Latinas and our entire community.
And that goes for the farm workers as well. You know, we talked a little bit about the fact that it's important that they get that sick time. And you see with this pandemic how really, you know, it needs to be, I believe, discussed more. I saw that one farm in particular, almost every person there had contracted COVID. They didn't have any information. It's not mandatory. And it's just a shame that the people that are taking care of us, that are feeding us, aren't protected. And we should all care about that, no matter what side, you know, what side of the political spectrum you fall on. We know that our families have to eat. I often say when people are being, I guess, less than nice about someone who's undocumented, that more than half, almost 60%, and that might be higher, I don't know, of farm workers are undocumented. We need them here working. So let's find a way to make it legal. because if we didn't need them, they wouldn't be there. And obviously during this pandemic, I hope that people realize how urgent it is that we change the policy.
Workers in the fields that are harvesting our foods and day in and day out, whatever the temperature is. We were just talking about how hot it is in Arizona today, 110 degrees. And in California, the UFW worked to pass a law that would protect farm workers from heat illness and dying from high temperatures. We work in getting in California overtime because, believe it or not, farm workers are not entitled to overtime pay after 8 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Know that with the Biden administration, we can work together to have these protections for farm workers around the country. And I don't understand, and it is just incomprehensible that farm workers are specifically excluded from the law. We need to end these racist laws.
But you're right. That's what it boils down to. It's a racist law, because why does it not apply to these essential workers? It makes no sense other than that. So finally, what's your final message from the UFW workers and their families to anybody who's listening to this, watching this?
You know, it is important, like we said earlier, that we vote. Elections, as we learned in the last elections, elections count and votes matter, and votes are important. It is all of our responsibility to ensure that those of us who can vote on November 3rd go out and vote. And if we don't have the ability to vote, let's make sure that our children, if they're going to be 18 before November 3rd, our grandchildren, our neighbors, our friends, you know, in places like we were saying earlier, Arizona, Texas, California, Oregon, we need to have all those people vote. We need to work in making sure that they're going to be there, and they're going to make it difficult, but we need to be there and do not give up and cast our votes, because that's the only way. But we need to encourage everybody to go and do it.
And I love that that both of you joined us today, because, you know, in August of this year, it's 100 years that women were granted the right to vote, the 19th Amendment, but women of color still had decades and decades to fight. Native American, Latinos, African American. I think in some states, it wasn't until 1975, if there was any kind of language barrier, that it became legal for Latinos to vote. You know, there were all these things that local politicians would put in place. Your grandmothers, our grandmothers, our great-grandmothers fought very hard for us to vote. Ladies, please don't throw your voice away. Please register and vote.
Very well said.
I got one question. And it's off topic, but ladies, stay with me. And I'm gonna gear it towards Teresa. But Julie, if you have input, feel free to tap in on this. So I self-identify as Chicano. Now, within Chicano fashion, or if you may, Mexican American fashion, the whole button at the top, right, the flannel is a thing. So it was told to me by one of my OGs that the flannel and the button was started by the farm workers in the 60s when they were going out to the farms. They would do one button up top and then leave it underneath so that it would be cooler and protect them from the pesticides. Then that their children made it a fashion statement. Is that true or not?
Oh my God, I wish I had an answer for you, Anthony. I don't know. I don't know if you know, Julie, but I don't know.
I know that it was a popular style that even Cesar Chavez, my grandfather, and his brother Richard wore. So I don't know if they founded it, but they definitely adopted it. So. I was just going to say.
I don't know either, but I know our culture adopted that. And not just that, but you see it now in fashion. You see now people dress. I'm like, why are they selling that stuff for so much money? I can go to the pulga and get it way cheaper.
Exactly.
Sorry.
No, I was just saying my grandfather had some beautiful Pendletons too. So I definitely was always checking out his style. But if I can maybe just end with one final point as well, in terms of messages, I think one quote that always sticks with me that I think is really important for this moment is that my grandfather said, "You don't need perfect political systems, we need perfect participation." And I think that's what this election is about. We need everybody out there voting who can vote. If you can't vote, you can volunteer and sign up to call voters to remind them to vote. this election is the most important of our lifetime. And so just thank you so much, Dana. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you for your entire team for just educating our community and empowering them, because this is about building power, and voting is an important part of that.
I
have one more question for you.
Go ahead, Otto. Go
Oh,
ahead.
no, you go ahead, Dana. Go ahead.
So
Because
my
I think you're going to
question
ask the
is,
same thing I am.
I don't know. So Automatic and I are married. We share a brain. So Julie, working for the Biden campaign, you were working with Kamala Harris previously.
Yes, I actually still work with Kamala. I'm still her political advisor, and I also advise the Biden campaign.
So will she be the nominee for VP? Yes or no?
That I don't know. That is up to the president, because obviously he wants to pick someone who's going to be an important running mate for him. And after seeing him and President Obama last night, they did a fundraiser together. You know how important that pick's going to be. And so I think it's going to be, we're going to make history because it's going to be a woman candidate. I think Senator Harris is tremendously qualified for the job. I wouldn't be continuing to work with her if I didn't, but that decision is definitely up to the vice president. I think he has a wealth of riches to choose from because there's a lot of really qualified candidates.
I think so too, but I've been saying I think it's going to be her. So I'm putting my money on it, okay? And I've said that to DJ Automatic. What was your question, Automatic?
We share a brain. That was my question.
Ladies!
But I did want to ask one more thing, though, too, because it reminded me. What does the Biden campaign have? What can they promise the Latino community that they're going to do for them that is not being done right now? Because I don't think anything's being done right now. But what can the Biden campaign promise the Latino community in the future if he is elected president?
Well, I'll say on day one, he'll reverse these horrific immigration orders that have resulted in babies in cages from this administration. And he'll also send a comprehensive immigration reform bill to Congress, because we need to once and for all, as Dana mentioned, ensure that our farm workers and the 11 million undocumented workers that are in our country, just trying to continue to make a living, trying to provide for their families, really supporting our local economies, that they have an opportunity to more fully contribute, rebuilding and investing in our small businesses. We know how entrepreneurial our community is and how devastating the COVID crisis has been for our small businesses and so many of our workers. And so ensuring again that we are supporting our workers, supporting our small businesses, and including those that are Latino owned, because it's vitally important, not just again to our community, but to our country, to our economy. The future and the success of the Latino community is inextricably linked to the success of this country.
I agree 100%. Once again, ladies, thank you so much. I can't wait to talk again. Hopefully next time we'll have, Vice President Biden and Ms. Harris on. We'll see. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate the time. Okay, bye.